sick. All right, students. So, I am not at my apartment. I am at my parents, and so there's my sister. We're gonna be She's gonna be helping out with doing the maps for some of the battles that I'll be talking about. And so last time we left off with Pearl Harbor. That's the beginning of World War II. Let me shut this door real quick. And now we're going to be going over both parts of World War II, the European theater and the Pacific theater, because at that time, just a couple days after Pearl Harbor, that's when Japan started just ransacking the Pacific. So they started taking over, the Dutch East Indies, the Philippines, Marshall Islands, all of those, pretty much the whole entire western half of the Pacific Island. The Pacific was just taken over. And then also at the same time, Germany, they were also very ecstatic at the fact that Japan also attacked the America, because now America now has its hands tied with one nation, while they cannot fully focus on aiding Britain in Europe. So that's where we're at. But otherwise, I got all your essays graded. And I think a few of you I have left, but I can't have access to any of your essays, well, those 3 essays, so now I have to go through that and figure out how to grant access. So if you can, please grant me access to that. That will help out a lot. And unfortunately, I do not have my scale models to help you with that, but she will be drawing. And so hopefully that will work out for you guys, for all you visual learners out there. Yeah, otherwise that's about it. I think this will go in phases, and so we'll start off with pretty much the beginning of the war. So it'll be in 3 phases. It'll be the beginning with just kind of like the introduction, getting into the European theater, and then defending against the Japanese in the Pacific. But then we'll also have the second phase, which will be mostly leading up to the invasion of Normandy in France, and then also it'll be around the Battle of the, I want to say, Coral Sea. I want to say, actually no, it'll pretty much up to the atomic bombing of Japan. So that will be kind of like the culmination of both phases of the war and everything. And so, but just to get started, we're going to start a little bit behind because I didn't really talk about the European theater. And so, in 1940, that's when the Battle of Britain happened, summer of 1940. And so Germany had this idea of invading Britain. And so, of course, they pushed back. They took over France, and then now they're going to push into Britain. So they developed this air war with Britain. So it was just a giant onslaught. So that became the Battle of Britain. And so their idea was, if they can knock out Britain's air force and air power and cripple its infrastructure through strategic bombing, then they can finally take over that country. Well, that didn't end well for them, so it ended in a British victory. But at the same time, around June of that same summer, Hitler also wanted to invade Russia, which was a bad hand to be dealt with. So because we all know how that favored Napoleon back then, he didn't really, and the same thing's going to happen now, where he goes so far in and then he has to turn back because of the winter. But he didn't think about that. So June through December 1941, that's when Operation Barbarossa kicks off. And so essentially, So on the map, yes. So you're gonna draw pretty much draw like Germany, I guess, just whatever.
Nice.
Yeah, and then Russia right next to it. Yeah. So if I can recollect, so next to Russia, up to the north will be Leningrad. So L-E... Oh, nope, below it. Inside the country, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, just north was like up a little bit ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is it?
Lenin, so Lenin, and then grad. And then in that back corner right in the middle, so go to the back right, to the right of that. So then right in the middle, nope, over to the right. Keep going, to the right. Yes, there. So put in Moscow. And then just below that, and then to the left, yeah, put, I think, Kiev. Yeah, cool. And then below that, put Stalingrad.
Just right below?
No, just a little, like pretty much where Leningrad is, but just a little bit below that, just towards the bottom. Yeah.
You said it was what? Stalingrad?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So Germany, I don't know if you want to get a different marker or use the same marker. It's up to you.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So Germany had this three-pronged mission or plan where he wanted to invade 3 major cities, and then once he took a foothold on those major cities, then he'll push towards the capital of Moscow, and in the hopes of, if he does capture Moscow, then the whole infrastructure of Russia will cripple down, and pretty much he holds Russia at that point. And so yeah, I don't know if you want to hold it up.
Should I show it real quick?
Yeah. There you go. Yeah, so you can pause, screenshot, do whatever you want. And so there's Germany, and then Russia, and then those are the 3 cities. And so the 3 prongs will be Leningrad to the north, Kiev in the middle, and then finally Stalingrad on the south side. Once he takes a foothold there, that's when he will push towards Moscow over there. So you can draw little arrows and stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where you need those?
Hmm?
You said the arrows?
Yeah, you just from Germany straight to each city.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oh, not that one. Yeah. Spoiler alert, he never makes it.
Dang.
That's
unfortunate.
Yeah.
What's out here too?
In Stalingrad, yeah. Cool. So, alright. So as he's pushing forward, and so Hitler captures a large portion of cities in between. So he captures Minsk and Smolensk, places like that. But Leningrad, it falls under siege. So he holds out. Well, the people hold out for a number of weeks, and then ultimately it capitulates. And then Leningrad surrenders, or doesn't really surrender, but basically Germany marches into Leningrad, takes it over. So then that star can be drawn next to that. Then also,
Oh, no, my bad.
yeah. And so he captures Kiev. So he captures that as well soon after. And so he's rapidly taking over land left and right. And so Stalingrad, he also ends up capturing. He pushes the Russian army out of there. And so then now he has, now you can draw the stars and all that too. So yeah. So now that he captures all of now that he captures all of those cities, now he's gonna try to push on Moscow. But by this point, it's around I want to say November or so. No, not November. I want to say mostly like springtime, April, May. No, March. Yeah, March, April ish. And so now you can draw kind of like a line, like a slash or something, like a line. So like all the arrows will go towards Moscow, but then it'll stop.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, it'll be kind of messy. Just don't worry about it too much.
So just
Yeah,
over.
that's fine. Yeah. And then just yep. All right. So he pushes towards Moscow, and ultimately he stops. Why? Well, because of the winter. which is an issue because logistically, I mean, yeah, from the picture, look how big Russia is and Germany. Well, in between there, you also have a bunch of other countries in between that he has to get through, and then Russia also has another whole bunch of land to get through just to get to Moscow. Well, that in the winter is not logistically the best idea, and so he starts losing. Not only men to infection and sickness, and then wounds, death, etc., etc. He also loses supplies. Supply chains are cut off by small factions of the Russian army. Or Soviet army. The vehicles are not meant for harsh winters as well, and so those start to fail. And so he cannot get the supplies to keep his army running, and so ultimately he now has to push back. So this is where the Battle of Stalingrad happens. So then he gets pushed back, and so draw a little. Yeah. So over there on Stalingrad, you'll just draw kind of like a red dot, just a red circle. Yeah. So, and then I guess you could erase the lines because they're all just getting pushed back. Yeah. And so now with a blue marker.
You want all the arrows? All the arrows gone?
Yeah. Okay. So now with a blue marker, you'll draw. Actually, yeah, draw a red circle, kind of like. So to the left of Kiev, and then to the left of Leningrad.
A red circle?
Mm-hmm. Cool. And then blue, so a bunch of blue circles surrounding Leningrad, kind of like right there.
You here?
Yeah, just all the way around it. Yeah. Oh, well, around it. Just through it. Sorry.
Oh. Okay.
Cool. And then those just kind of like a half moon shape around all of them.
The red circle?
Mm-hmm. Oh, the other side.
So erase this part?
Mm-hmm. And that half moon goes through like right there. Yeah. And then the same thing there.
Did you want this?
Mm-mm.
I'm just drawing whatever. Okay.
Alright, cool. Cool. So the plan with all these cities is basically at this point he's at a stalemate. The winter is rolling through and he can't really push forward anymore. So then logistically he switches to a war of attrition essentially. He's going to take over all like the industrial cities. He's just going to bear down and hopefully hold out till the warmer months comes. And so that actually is a good thing for Russia. So at this time, I have to post a book. I'm going to post a book that you guys would definitely find interesting for anyone who is into the European theater or World War II, essentially because this now gives Russia to completely revamp their infrastructure. So by this time, they completely redo their military, their air force, and they modernize completely by this point. So then they end up start pushing back. It takes them a little while, but they end up getting it. So then now Leningrad, their army's getting pushed back out of there. Kiev pushed back, but then also Stalingrad though. Stalingrad gets surrounded because all of these, yeah. So now, if you see these half moon shapes, now you got armies coming from Leningrad and Kiev to Stalingrad. So now you have the Germans who are right there. They're now getting surrounded from armies from the west and also from the north, and then also any kind of army from that Moscow section to the south. So they're pretty much all surrounded. So now, by this point, the German army is just going to bear down in Stalingrad and hold out. Even though they do have the city captured, around the edge of the borders of the city, the Russians have them captured. And so they hold out until about December 1941, which is when America gets attacked, which is also when Stalingrad gets taken back. And then also the German army gets surrounded. 250,000 of them actually end up dying, and then a bunch of hundreds of thousands end up getting taken prisoner. And so, about 90 to 100,000 of them get taken prisoner, which only out of this whole entire campaign, guess how much end up passing away, or how much end up making it back?
How much?
Take a guess. It's in the thousands, but not that much.
It's in the 1,000s or over 1,000?
Yeah, it's in the thousands. It's over, but no, close.
3.
No, keep going.
4.
Keep going.
5.
Keep going.
6.
6,000. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Out of the out of the just hundreds of thousands of troops that end up making it in, only 6,000 end up making it out of that campaign, out of Russia completely. Crazy. And so now we'll get to the North African campaign. So as he's doing all this, Italy. So Benito Mussolini becomes a dictator of Italy. He creates fascism, the idea of fascism, which Hitler also adopts, and to create the German Workers' Party, essentially, National German Workers' Party, and he adopts fascism as well. So then they kind of join forces, but Mussolini attacks North Africa, which is held by, I believe, France, the French Indo area. That's French Indochina. So it's held by Britain, sorry. So then France attacks North Africa and opens another front in the middle of Germany attacking Russia and the Battle of Britain. So now Germany is kind of upset by this point, but Italy's making some headway. And so, yeah, you can't erase that. Yeah. And so Germany's making some headway with this, but Italy's also making some headway with this as well. And so Italy wants to take control of the Suez Canal and the Mediterranean by this point. And so by this point, he wants to take over the British oil supply line. By doing that, he basically starves Britain of any kind of logistical supplies that they need and everything. And so by September of 1940, he actually ends up getting beaten back. And so it wasn't even that long into North Africa when the Italian army ends up getting beaten back by the British Desert Force. And so Hitler, by this point, he's probably super upset. He's like, "Das Dominican Italian," or Italianer. And so that's basically these damn Italians, essentially, in German. Yeah, it's crazy. And so now he's just like, now I gotta do everything myself. So then he sends in the Africa Corps. So the Africa Corps is ran by not the one and only Major General Erwin Rommel. So Erwin Rommel, he lands in Tripoli and he lays waste to everything. And so he comes in and then he essentially just starts smacking cheeks. Yeah.
Crazy.
Right, it's crazy, man. And so Rommel, he is an absolute professional at cooperation between the army and the infantry, which the British and the Americans by this point, by later on, are not. And so the British, they have some issues with communication between the infantry and the army, and so then Rommel uses that to his advantage. So then he cuts off the British 3rd Army, or 3rd Armored Brigade, and he ends up taking back the Egyptian frontier. So then just draw, so I guess the top of Africa.
Or you want it like shown?
Oh no, like this half kind of extended out a little bit more.
Ooh.
Yeah, kind of like that. And then draw a line kind of like over there.
Down?
Yeah, and then that half will be Egypt.
And then that's Egypt. Egypt.
Cool, sick. Alright, so yeah, you can use the black and white. Whichever one you want. So, Rommel, so he lands right up there. Yeah, exactly. So he lands right to the north in northern Africa, and then he pushes the British 3rd Armored Brigade back into Egypt, and so he ends up taking Tobruk. Yeah. And then I guess the blue would be Britain.
Oh wait, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. And Britain is up here?
No, like the British Army, because they're in North Africa.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see what you mean. You want me to mark them here?
Yeah, just put a dot or a little square, whatever you want, and just do British Army. Cool. And then the green will be just Rommel, so that he had to the green.
How do you spell it?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Oh, close. So Rommel.
Oh, that was not close.
Sick. All right.
Okay. Just gonna. In case they're like, what is this mound?
Yeah.
Alright.
Alright, sweet. So essentially that's pretty much what it is. Rommel lands in the North Africa, then he starts pushing into Egypt and pushes the British 3rd Armored Group or Armored Brigade back. Now, by this point as well, the British now have a foothold in Egypt. They're holding out, but they're on the defensive. Then, a guy by the name of Lieutenant General Bernard Montgomery, the Devil of Alamein, or essentially he's just Monty. That's actually his nickname, is just Monty. And so Monty, he ends up at night, so at the dead of night, he ends up having like a 600 gun barrage. And he ends up pushing back Rommel. He takes him by surprise, and he pushes this British brigade back into North Africa. So you can just, yeah. Mm-hmm. Sweet. So then this black line, this will be the German-Italian line, essentially, and he pushes this German-Italian line back. So now the British are on the offensive. So now he gets pushed. This is so odd. But I guess that'll be.
You want me to push this line back?
No. You're good. Yeah, you can just do whatever you want with that. I believe Tunisia will be like right there. Maybe. I don't know. It's kind of hard without a map.
Right. With my A1 Picasso drawings.
Mm-hmm.
You want Tunisia somewhere?
Yeah. I don't know, roughly where would it be, I guess.
Isn't that like...
It's like up there somewhere, but you just, I don't know, wherever, up north. Yeah. So Rommel ends up getting pushed back into Tunisia, and the British army ends up pretty much just surrounding him, essentially. And so, yeah. Yep. Oh, so it's Tunisia? Look at my notes.
Okay. I'm gonna make sure in case they screenshot. They're like,
yeah.
What is it?
All right. There you go. So, November 8th, 1942. Now, Dwight D. Eisenhower, he comes in. He now invades Africa. So then by this point, they're really surrounded. And so Rommel's now under siege by them. And so by around May of 42, that's when about another 250,000 Germans and Italians are taking POWs. So that I will hold off, though. That will be kind of like the European part. So now from there, Americans and British, they're now going to launch bombers from Africa into Italy from there, or I believe, Sicily and Italy as well. So yeah, now you can erase that. Now I'm gonna switch over to the Pacific Theater side. So this one's gonna be a little bit convoluted, just because there is a lot going on, especially with the fact that Japan is just ransacking every single American outpost and territory in the Pacific by this point. And so, so we'll start off with like the Philippines. Of course, the fall of the Philippines ends up being in 1941, around like the day after Pearl Harbor, December 8th. That's when Japan invades the Philippines. And so you have individual heroes here and there, kind of like Buzz Wagner. Boyd Buzz Wagner, he got his name just because he liked to do a lot of acrobatics in aircraft. He was a P-40 pilot, by the way. So he was it's up for debate depending on who you ask. I believe he was one of the first aces of the war, but that's just me. And so Luzon, he tried to defend Luzon from an air attack, and so I believe he was on patrol when he was surprise attacked by two Japanese fighters, and so he actually pulled up into the sun and pulled a Chandelle. So basically, when you just pull up into the sun, then you just pretty much just pull off. And so then they couldn't see, so they kept going, and then he actually pulled up behind them and shot both of them down. And so that was technically the first couple shots of his career in the war. And so then later on at Vigan, Vigan, and he also attacked with a couple other of his wingmen, and Allison Strauss and Lieutenant Russell Church were the other two people. And they attacked this Japanese airfield that was placed in Vigan, and essentially the anti-aircraft opened fire almost immediately. And so then Lieutenant Church, Russell Church, he ends up getting shot down, and he continues on his run with the P-40 still burning, and he just dives right into the artillery. And then Allison Strauss, he's just doing patrol up above to make sure no other planes attack them. But then Wagner, he actually sees a plane taking off from the airfield, and so then he ends up pulling back on the throttle, and then the plane overshoots him. Then he fires on that one, so that's his third kill in 2 days, well, essentially within a week of each other. So then after that, he goes on to try and defend the Philippines, but ultimately it's a what's the word I'm trying to look for? It's mute, or it's a void, or like it's
a dud.
It's worthless, or like it's not worth it.
Pointless?
Yeah, or by that point, it's just, the Japanese pretty much took over the whole entire Philippines, and so by this point, he ends up shooting down, I believe, a couple more aircraft, and so it brings up his score to about 5 or 6 by the end of when the fall of the Philippines happens. And so, now, by this time, FDR now orders Douglas MacArthur, or he now orders him to leave the Philippines because he wants the American army to still have some leadership. He doesn't want all his leaders to be taken over, which Douglas MacArthur will become the supreme commander. He'll become commander of the American army, or American forces by this point. So then, Gilbert Marshall Islands. I wish I had a map can show you. No,
Doing
I know. It's just like there's no map in here.
I know, right?
Yeah. So Task Force 17, and so I guess just draw like I'll just draw this Marshall Island.
Ooh, that was tough.
Dude, there's nothing there. Okay, yeah, just draw that, I guess. Marshall
Up
Islands. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want me to do like this other stuff for reference or just?
Yeah, if you want. Yeah, for reference, probably.
Okay, but I'll make that the bigger thing.
Yeah.
So it's like a, and then I saw there's a whole bunch of little mini. Oh god. Okay, and this is the
Marshall Islands.
okay. Well, what was the other parts? This was the what? North Pacific.
Yeah. So do like 2 more smaller islands just right around. Yeah, it's the best we could do. And so Yorktown and Enterprise were dispatched as Task Force 17, and they were to be tasked with taking back the Marshall and Gilbert Islands. And so it's a small chain of islands just northeast of Australia. And so then the first island will be the Kwajalein, Kwajalein island attack. So they'll be just right there. And so then the Enterprise watches torpedo planes. So then any ship that's at that port, they will essentially attack us, anything they can find, pretty much. And so 9 cargo ships were spotted at that point. But essentially, as soon as they got there, anti-aircraft fire opened up. And so torpedo planes ended up aborting the mission. But some scout bombers, the SBD Dauntless, dive bombers, essentially, with the Navy, they dove on the installations about 14,000 feet. And it was good for them because at the time when the anti-aircraft fire was opening up, all of it was limited to about 10,000 feet by that point. So all of them were credited with, or were essentially not credited. I'm probably losing my focus. They held. They had 500-pound bombs. Equipped. They were equipped with 500-pound bombs. And so they attacked Kwajalein Island. And so then large vessels were also noted there. So then torpedo bombers, or the TBD Devastators, they came around. So they attacked, They attacked all those shipping targets. And so then not much ended up happening with that. I believe one hit a reef, and then a few other torpedoes ended up missing their targets. And so then they backed out. Nothing really went on with that. So there you go. There's that. So then Tarawa. So that'll be this second island over here. So you can, second island. So it'll be Taroa. Not Tarwa, or Tarawa. Not that one. That one's later on. But this one is, Tao. Yeah, that one.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. islands, not
or
bumblebees.
you can just do a check mark.
Oh.
A check mark on the island.
Cha-ching.
Yeah, so now the little bumblebees, they now go on to Tarawa. And so Tarawa. And so then now for that, there was an airfield on Tarawa. So Kwajalein, I believe that was used as more so your supply island. And then Tarawa was going to be more so the airfield itself. And so then oh, shoot. Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, chain of thought. So then now, on that island, as soon as the bees get there, anti-aircraft and fighters ended up bouncing them. And so it was complete onslaught. So then 3 enemy fighters ended up being shot down, but one of them was on the ground, essentially. And then all the 5 of the U.S. fighters, the F4F Wildcats, they ended up making it back as well. 9 of the U.S. bombers, the Dauntlesses, they end up coming out about 13,000 feet above the airfield and dove in on them. And so they essentially, because of the fighters that were shot down or shot on the ground, they incurred no opposition while bombing runs until they were finished. And so the last 2 bombers, though, they were attacked by fighters, but they successfully got away from that one. So, yeah, now check mark next to that one. So then there was a 3rd wave of the 9 bombers that came in an hour later from up north, but the AA umbrella, or the anti-aircraft umbrella, just became in effect there. So then essentially they had to essentially pull out after that. So, yeah. Now, the last one, Wotye, probably.
Another island?
Yeah, just right, the big one.
Oh.
So, WOTJE. Yeah. Cool. Alright, so this island was attacked by 1 fighter and 1 bomber wave. Well, 3 waves. The 3rd wave was also a pair of bombers and torpedoes. So then the first fighter wave, they came in unopposed, did some ground attack on the island. The second encountered heavy anti-aircraft fire as soon as they knew that they were being attacked. The 3rd wave, composed of about 8 bombers and 9 torpedo planes, they ended up destroying the airfield, and 8 out of 10 of the ships that were in port ended up being sunk, or at least damaged at that point. So then, this whole entire operation, yeah, pretty good. Yeah, there you go.
Killing this guy.
So essentially, this was deemed the very first American offensive, and it was an extreme success. All right, so then there you go. There's the Marshall Islands attack, the first offensive. So yeah, you can erase it. Yeah. So now we're going to talk about the Wake Island attack.
Okay.
So about 2 weeks after Pearl Harbor was attacked, the Japanese focused on Wake Island. But then Wake Island did not go down without a fight at that point. So 40 G3M2s, those are Nels. Basically, they're twin-engine bombers, mid-range bombers that came in from the Marshall Islands at that point. They ended up just coming in hours after the U.S. bombed Pearl Harbor, just because of the time difference. And so, essentially, the first attempt at their raid, the gun emplacements ended up firing back at them, but none of them ended up being harmed. So then it was just it wasn't a success. It was a failure. It was a failure at that point. Some buildings were destroyed, but ultimately no one was harmed or anything. Well, I think like 20 men were killed actually at that point. And so then they ended up backing away. The second attack focused on more so the installations, and I think just a hospital ended up blowing up. And then they actually, at that time of the second wave, actually emplaced a bunch of decoy gun emplacements. And the Japanese bombed all the decoy gun emplacements. They thought that all the guns were down now. They were not. So then the third wave comes in, which was an amphibious assault. So at this time, they end up waiting. And so the Americans, they end up wanting to wait till the amphibious assault was within range. So I believe it was within like maybe a few thousand, 3,000 to 4,000 yards, which is still a long ways out. So then by that time, they end up opening fire. And so then they completely decimate the amphibious assault. So then they back out again. Well, now by this point, they're running low on ammo. They have quite a few men who have died at that point or are wounded. And so they're trying to call for help. But Pearl Harbor at this time is still weakened. They still have tons of ships that were still in port that were damaged or sunk. They can't expel any more men out to the Wake Island. And so now Wake Island just has to hold out. And so then, logistically though, this is also a bad idea because, yes, there you go. So draw like Japan.
How big? Like for as bigger?
Oh, no, just small. Or
Japan?
Yeah, just small like that. Well, maybe a little bit down there. Down here. And then what was it? Yeah, Wake Island. Yeah, Wake. And then Pearl Harbor over there. Yeah, the proportions are so off.
Should this be smaller?
Way smaller, yeah.
They're zoomed in. There you go.
Even smaller.
Dang.
It's a tiny island. It's only like 3 miles long or wide. It's tiny, yeah. And then Pearl Harbor is literally just a port on. Like, just draw like, yeah, that. Yeah.
Okay. So
and then a bunch of other islands like around here, like this.
Just different sizes?
Yeah.
Okay. Just all around?
There you go. That's fine. Yeah. So
it's like a mess. Okay. And
yeah.
that was Wake Island?
Mm-hmm.
Like
so,
Wake?
Yeah. Okay. So then by this point, essentially Japan has a foothold over pretty much every single island in the Pacific. And so the only thing that's stopping them from pushing forward into American territory in the West Coast is essentially Hawaii and Wake Island by this point. And of course the Aleutian Islands in Alaska and everything too. And so, red marker. Oh, red marker.
Oh, red marker?
Mm-hmm. So then, essentially it's logistically not sound because Japan has everything up to here. So Wake Island is going to be the westernmost point up until Japanese territory. So it's deep within that territory. Pearl Harbor, if it were to send any forces over there, they run the risk of having any Japanese force attacking them from that area. So they don't know where the Japanese force is, if there is a force there. They just know that Wake Island is being attacked. From what direction, they don't know. So they have to be safe and just hold out at Pearl Harbor, not send anyone over there if they can. So yeah, you're good on that one. So then, by this time, there's a fourth onslaught. There's a fourth wave. By this time, the guys are tired. They want to go home. They want to eat. They have no ammo. There's people who are dying. There's people who are dead. And they're done. They're so tired, but they hold out. The fourth wave comes, and it's a whole carrier task force from the Japanese. The Japanese just keep ramping it up more and more and more. So then by this time, they're like, we're done. This whole island is giving us hell. So they send a whole entire task force to invade this little island. And so then Americans end up surrendering. They try to hold out, but they just can't with this onslaught. So then, because of all this, hundreds were murdered on the island. About, I think 100 servicemen end up being murdered in cold blood, just because the Japanese were just mad after they took POWs. And so then, Wake Island. It's good. That's good.
Oh,
yeah.
Wake Island.
So now, the American kind of idea now is to just, now that Japanese took hold of Wake Island, now Americans should just fortify Midway and the South Pacific and just hold out. And so then by like 1942, this ends up being the case with everything. And so their plan now is to just attack towards the mainland Japan, causing any kind of like strategic disturbance and halt that advancement. That's all they want to do now. And so over time, they'll just weaken the enemy and find certain positions that are key, and then divert strength from their offensives. And so, task force how? So it's come up with. So it's essentially just two carrier groups: the Enterprise and the Yorktown. And so that is essentially. So they're supported. They're supported by 6 or 7 destroyers, and it's captained by George Murray. George Murray was on the Enterprise, then Elliot Buckmaster. He was on the, what was it? What was he on? Oh, Yorktown. So he was also on the Yorktown. And so then, yes, okay, this is good. So then, with that marker, draw like a U. Draw a U, it looks like that.
The big one?
Yeah. And then now, like a narrower U. That'll be probably better. Yeah, like that. And then connect them. Not up there, but like connect it.
Like, outline?
Yeah. That's good enough.
Or do you want this like wider?
No. You're good. Yeah, you're good.
That's great.
And so,
okay.
So this, ladies and gentlemen, is Wake Island.
Oh.
And so there's going to be gun emplacements here that the Japanese now have control of. There's going to be some right here. And then also a bunch of them right here. And so essentially they are able to control fire over here. Then over here. And then over here. And then also back there. Here. So this whole entire island is pretty much covered. There's no way, or there's no blind spots essentially. And so then the task force of these two carrier groups, about 18 miles out, 2 Japanese seaplanes ended up spotting them. And so they end up trying to dive bomb at 2 destroyers. And then the Enterprise actually opens fire on them. And then they end up missing. And then they try to return back to Wake Island. But then by that time, the whole entire task force is about 8 to 9 miles out. And so then they end up sending out a whole complete bombardment of this island. And so they used armor-piercing rounds and started knocking out installations left and right. So then on the eastern side of the island... Jesus. So then, a green one. Actually, no, you're good. You're good. You can... So then, the eastern side of the island, all those start getting knocked out.
This side?
Is it? Yeah, that side. Yeah.
Just like X them.
Yeah. Cool. So then, shore batteries on the eastern side of the island get knocked out, and then, essentially dive bombing attacks. Blue. Yeah. So the dive bombing attacks get commenced on the northwest side of the island. So, right there. Yeah, right there? Yeah. Right there. So, northwest side of the island. No, actually, no, that's sorry, that's not. South. Northwest side. Essentially right there. So then, northwest side of the island, they get attacked. By little effect. It's about, they're all came up with they're all equipped. Ugh. They're all equipped. I know. They're all equipped with 100-pound bombs, and little effect happens. The Enterprise then moves north, and so they end up moving out to about here, and then they end up sending out another wave of about 18 dive bombers, 9 torpedo bombers, and about 6 F4F Wildcats, and about 12,000 feet. At 14,000 feet for the bombers, they ended up diving in on these installations. And then also around here as well, you also got the torpedo bombers. They pull down at about 12,000 feet. And so they lay waste to this one, and so they take out this section as well. So then now you only got this last section down here. So this one is made up of gas tanks. So this one's going to be more so your gas refueling. This one's going to be more so your tanks on the eastern end, but then also up here, that's where you're going to have more so of your marine camps, and more so your infantry is stationed up there. And then otherwise, so they lay siege to this area, and then what else? Yeah, essentially no other objectives were really destroyed. They just destroyed these installation and some of the fuel tanks, and then otherwise that's pretty much it for this. They just kind of pull out from this battle. And then one quick little tidbit, which is kind of cool too, is that that I read essentially was that while this was going on, the Enterprise in Yorktown, they also had a screen about like 4 fighters were surveying overhead just to make sure no other fighters came to attack them. A seaplane actually came at them, and it was about maybe 5,000 feet or something like that. No, it was about like 1,000 feet, and it was coming right at them. It was trying to get through. Like they were firing on it, but it was just still coming through. But then all 4 of these fighters that was surveying these or covering these battleships, they come out like 15,000 feet in this dive from the clouds. It was so cool. It's so cool to read about it. They come out from the clouds, and it's just one after the other, kind of like bees, and they shoot down the seaplane just mere like hundreds of feet from the carrier, and it plummets into the water. And then they just pull up, and then everyone just starts cheering and all that. So it's a really cool kind of thing to read about with the Wake Island attack. But then, so that's good now.
I feel like, have you seen that? This is so off topic, but the video of that little girl when she's trying to do that portrait of her mom, and it looks terrible. And the mom was like, "It's nice. It's really nice."
Oh, and she's trying not to laugh. Yeah. And then the little girl's like, "Don't laugh."
She's like, That's how I feel right now.
No, you're doing good. You're doing good.
Okay.
There you go. All right, so now a couple days after this, the Enterprise ends up going north. So it turns on Marcus Island, about northwest of Wake Island. And so then this essentially was what the Americans thought was a staging area for the Japanese to attack Wake Island. So they wanted to attack where the Japanese were holding out. So they called this place Minami Tori Shima. So what essentially that was just island northwest of Wake Island. So it was just a direct line. Essentially, this is how they believed it. Actually, yeah, they believed it was just so if you draw like Japan and then Minori and then Wake there. Yeah, essentially. And so just do Japan and then you ready for the spelling? Minami, so Minami, and then
Wake?
Yeah, Wake. And then Japan. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool.
So then now, that's pretty much what the American Task Force thought was that this was just a staging area. This is where they attacked, and then this is where Japan is. So the mainland. So essentially, it was just like one beeline towards Wake. So then, that's why the Enterprise was sent out towards Minami from Wake. And so then they were going to attack straight up at Minami and try to push back the Japanese force back to, of course, like their territory out towards Japan. So then they attacked at 16,000 feet with 14 dive bombers or scout bombers. They also attacked with 17 high level or mid-level bombers, and then 6 fighters, and then the dives were to be conducted about 8 to 10,000 feet, and they were supposed to release their bombs at about 2 to 3,000 feet and pull up another 1,000 feet as well. This attack, not much really went on with this. Multiple installations were destroyed, no significant objectives, some fuel tanks, but otherwise, this attack largely it was just more so a bombing of installations. And so no personnel were really lost. They ended up pulling away from that one. And so now Enterprise pulls back towards American territory. You can now erase that.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So now we get to the Battle of Java Sea. So we can, I guess, up above, just put Battle of Java Sea.
Like that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, S.
Yeah, not the letter C.
I was like, okay, random.
Whew. Alright, so some objectives with the Battle of Java Sea is that essentially it was an attempt to stop the Japanese push into Java. So draw like Australia down there.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty good. Yeah, that was pretty good.
I'm killing it, you guys.
That was pretty good.
Okay.
And then see if I can get this right. Cool. Okay, yeah, and then I want to say yeah.
Because I'm also like, where are we?
Because I know it's around
Okay.
Australia.
Oh, yes.
Oh, God.
Why did it do that? Oh.
It's right down there somewhere. I don't know, they'll... Yeah, just pull up Java Sea. I'm pretty sure it's just north of Australia. Oh, Southeast Asia, sorry. Okay. Well, yeah, it is actually. Yeah,
it is north.
It is north.
Right?
Yeah, so right here, just do like a chain. Oh man.
Should I move this over then?
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That was good, guys.
That was a pretty good one.
Just so like.
That was pretty good, Australia.
That was dope. I don't know if I can replicate that. Sorry. Okay. So, I'm making more like what over here?
Well, down more.
Down more?
Yeah, because it's going to be like right here.
Oh, okay. So, you want me to just do like the top half?
Yeah, just the top half of it. Yeah.
There we go. And then
it's just like a chain of islands and then like a straight in between. So I guess that would be...
see. So it's like that and that.
Yeah.
And I'll do a little island here. Sure. Okay. And this part?
Yeah. Well, you don't put anything there because that's where the battle's going to go on.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to just like outline that?
You're good. Just put Australia down right there for reference. And otherwise, no.
Nice.
Yeah.
There we go.
Cool. All right. So, so then now by this time, so Australia, Britain, the Dutch, or New Zealand, I believe, and America, they all gather their forces. So it's called the ABDA Task Force, or the American, British, Dutch, Australian Expeditionary Force, or Task Force. And so then their attempt was to stop Japanese push into the Australian territory and into the Java Strait, essentially, or the sea. And so this comprised of the USS Houston, which was the largest heavy cruiser of the time and the largest warship, actually, that the U.S. had at this time, especially after Pearl Harbor and everything. The Repulse, Prince of Wales, which essentially a year earlier took down the Bismarck and stuff like that. But by this time, they're going to have just 3 light cruisers, 2 heavy cruisers, and 8 destroyers at this battle. So the Imperial Japanese Navy at the time, though, they had 2 heavy cruisers, 2 light cruisers, and 14 destroyers. So in the evening, the ABDA, they ended up sighting the Japanese. So then, let's see where they came from. All right. So then just draw I'd say just a couple or a few. Well, 4. Just draw 4 little ships here, and then 4 here. No. Yeah. I say that. Actually, draw Yeah, just right there.
4.
And then about 4. Yeah.
Okay. Does it have to be a different color?
Probably this one for Japanese, and then probably blue for the other one. Nope. Oh wait. Japanese be on that side.
Oh.
Yeah. Cool.
And then what was the other side?
The blue. That's gonna be just the American, British, Dutch, and all that. Cool.
Okay.
So this was just a straight up helter-skelter operation. Everything just went haywire. Everything just went the wrong way. And so essentially,
In case they don't know what that.
so then they sight each other in the strait, the Java Sea, and oh my bad. Oh, I know.
It's
okay. We have an extra river, a waterway. And so then, at about 4 p.m., the HMS Exeter was hit. That's one of the destroyers or the cruisers. No, I believe it's one of the destroyers. Actually, no, that might be one of the cruisers. I can't remember. But then it was hit in this boiler room, instantly just explodes. And so it's severely damaged. Then the Dutch ship, the Kortenaar, it kept sailing. So it didn't even communicate with the Exeter. So the Exeter's just dead in the water. Sorry, can you hand me the black one? Yeah. So So the Exeter gets knocked out. So it's there. So then the Courtnair, it keeps sailing on. Well then, essentially now, yeah. So the IGN Haguro, so it comes along, and then it starts firing on the Courtnair. So then the Courtnair ends up sinking as well. So that's out now. So then, oh, sorry. So no, the Courtnair was not. So it's the Exeter. So the Exeter was knocked out. It quickly sunk as the IGN Haguro started firing on it. So now it's out the picture. The HMS Electra was then assigned to oh shoot, I am messing up, guys. Sorry, my notes are so bad right now. So, oh my
better
gosh,
than my drawings.
no, yeah, no, you're good. Let me do this over. The Exeter was hit in its boiler room. It's dead in the water. The Courtnair starts sailing out and starts attacking the IGN or Imperial Japanese Navy. The Exeter was then backed up by the HMS Electra, which tries to cover it as it's trying to retreat out. Well, then, the HMS Electra was then fired on, and then, so these all start pushing forward. So it's just convoluted. So then the Electra was then fired on, and then the Electra ended up sinking. So then now you got two ships that are knocked out. So then, the Asagumo, that's one of the other ships. Oh, sorry, can you give me the red?
Oh,
yeah. So now you got the Haguro, and then the the Hasaguro. Now, so the rest of the ABDA group, they end up backing away, and then they rearm. So now that by this time it's about like 10 o'clock at night. So then they completely rearm. They're ready to go back into the mix. What do we call it? The eraser. Yeah. So they're ready to go back into the mix, but something terrible and unexpected happens. The HMS Jupiter, it hits its own mine. It hits a Dutch mine by accident. So then now, and by this time it's 10 at night, it's the dead of night. And so the Japanese don't know exactly where the Allied force went until this bomb goes off. So then, so the Japanese are in this strait and everything, and they're looking for this force. And so then, blue, So then all of a sudden, the HMS Jupiter explodes. It's dead in the water now. So now they're all kind of like mixed in between here, trying to cover the HMS Jupiter, trying to salvage what they can. And then by 12 a.m., the Japanese sight them. And so it's dead at night. The Japanese are just like, they go radio silence. They're dead quiet. And they try to now surround the ABDA task force. So where's the... So now, you got some right here, and then also you got some right here. Well, Ooh. Oh no.
It's okay, I draw myself.
Oh, okay. So then now you got some that kind of coming back around as well. I'm saying we're coming up. I haven't seen too much of a map of this, and so I'm just kind of like coming up with what I think could happen. And so then they come back around, they're trying to figure out what to do with the HMS Jupiter, and the Japanese unleash an onslaught of torpedoes. So now it's after midnight. They're trying to figure out. They're trying to focus on the ship that's heavily damaged and on fire. And then all of a sudden, you just see this massive torpedoes just coming through the water towards the very ship that you're trying to save. All hell breaks loose. So,
Oy vey.
yeah, oy vey is right. Yeah. So now, yeah, is that up here? Oh, this right here. Maybe one right there. So now by this time, it's a whole onslaught of torpedoes. All these ships are trying to do evasion maneuvers. You know, they're trying to evade not only torpedoes, but now each other. And trying to, like, just crisscross applesauce everywhere. And then, the Java and the Ruyter, R-U-Y-T-E-R. De Ruyter. So that, both of those ships end up sinking as well. And so then, the HMAS Perth and the USS Houston end up actually evading, and like they're jumping ship. They're out. And so they evade capture until the day after. So then they back out. They head out to sea under the cover of night. Sort of straight. Yeah. Sort of straights. So then, oh shoot, you actually drew wrong one. So this is actually the Sunda Strait. So the Java Sea is actually kind of like here. So that's my bad. So what happens actually, it's all coming back to memory. So now, so then this is actually kind of tragic, and it's messed up, but what's the word? Okay, so shoot, where to draw this? Yeah. Actually, no, you can hold up still. You can hold up. Okay. Northwest. Okay. Sweet. So, the Japanese idea was that they're going to capture these islands just north of Australia, and then once they make a foothold and push all the Allied forces out, then that's when they were going to attack. They're going to attack Australia with a full-on invasion. So they actually had this one giant force actually that was pushing up here. So they're pushing through this strait, or the Bantam Bay, I guess. And so Perth, the USS Houston, and the HNLMS Everson, so they were all in port. So, sorry. What's the word? Okay. So then they're all in port here. What? Maybe. Actually, yeah, about there. So then, okay. So then once they leave port, though, they're going over here. And then essentially, one of the Japanese ships gets sighted. Well, it's still kind of late at night. Or no, this is super early in the morning. And the Perth signals. It signals to the Japanese ship. Just like, who are you? what is your call sign? It signals a call sign. Well, the Japanese, they're just like, what do we do? So they start flashing their lights. They start flashing their lights back. Well, it's the wrong color and also the wrong call sign. So the Perth panics, and they're just like, fire everything. So then the Perth then fires on, what do you call that? Where is it? Oh, it doesn't say. So the Perth starts firing on this invasion force, or this large task force of Japanese ships. And so now the Japanese know these ships are in this strait, or in the bay. So then the Japanese are just like full steam ahead. They start coming through. And so then that's when the Perth then realizes how big this force is. So then the USS Houston and the Perth both just like jump ship. They're out of there. So they're just full steaming out westward. So they try to cut through this strait here. And then just make way or make out to sea, basically. And so then the Everton, though, it was a bit behind, so it lagged about 2 hours behind. So then this Japanese force then starts just tailing them, starts coming after them. And then so this tactical retreat, unfortunately, was then blocked. So then they're trying to come out, but then you had another force of Japanese over there. So they were blocked by heavy cruisers, and it was just a complete onslaught. Both ships, the Houston and the Perth, both ships were fired upon by both directions, and they were both sank, unfortunately.
Dang.
Yeah. So the Evanston, that solid. So the Evanston, because it was lagging so far behind, the Evanston saw the gunfire later at night and was just like, nope. So then the Evanston... So the Evanston ended up turning around. So... Goodness gracious. It's so much. So the Evanston was about like... I know this is not accurate whatsoever, but I'm just basically going off memory right now. And so the Evanston was about here, and that's when the cruisers end up sighting the Evanston, so it turns around and tries to make way that way. But then the Marikumo and the Shirakumo ends up sighting the Evanston, and they start firing on, well, they start attacking the Evanston. And then the Everton actually ends up, so they start taking on water, fires start raging on the Everton, and it ends up beaching itself. And then all of a sudden the sailors on the ship, they get off, they run, and they leave the ship there. Essentially the ship explodes and the whole entire force obliterated. So there you go. There's the Battle of Java Sea. So it was a major defeat for the Allies, unfortunately, in the Sunda Strait. So yeah. So out of that whole entire thing, about 1,000 Allied personnel died, and about like 700 POWs. So it was a messy thing that happened. And then essentially after that, Douglas MacArthur becomes the commander of the Allied forces, and then Admiral Chester Nimitz then becomes the commander of the naval army, or the naval force at that point. By like March 24th actually is your birthday. March 24th was the day that he became, Admiral Nimitz became the commander of the naval force of World War II.
Big day.
Yeah. So now by this time, morale was low. Our whole force in the Australian territory was completely demolished. Most of the territory in the Pacific was completely overran, and we needed a way to... And the public all knows about this. They all know that USS Houston was sunk. They all know about Pearl Harbor. They all know about Wake Island, the Marshall Islands. They know about all this. And so they're like, we're losing this battle. And so then at the same time, Hirohito, the emperor of Japan at the time, he believes that he's pretty much impervious to any kind of onslaught by any other force because he has so much land in between, or so much territory in between that he took over. Yamamoto at the time also believed that they can actually make this work. They're pushing forward. So then there comes a challenge. What can FDR do to change morale and boost morale, even though he's kind of caught in this kind of like, he's kind of caught in a corner essentially. The only thing that's holding the Japanese back now is essentially Australia and Pearl Harbor, Port Moresby. It's pretty much it, honestly. And so then, who is it? Captain Francis Lowe. So he comes up with a plan. How about you take some bombers and shoot them off a carrier as close to Japan as you can and attack the mainland? And so FDR's like, give it a shot. Let's go. Well, what can we lose? More territory. All the territory's gone. Let's do it. So then, what was it? Captain Lowe, at that time, he's like, all right, fire away. And then he contacts Chiang Kai-shek, who is overseeing the operations in China. So Chiang Kai-shek, he sets up these stations or these airfields in China where essentially the bombers can land if they need to continue on. So then Jimmy Doolittle, he was made the leader of this attack. And so essentially the bombers that were chosen were the B-18, the B-25, and the B-26. And the B-23. So the B-18 and the B-23, they were too wide. The wingspan, there was a lot of issues with clearing the structure tower? Was it the structure tower, or basically the tower on the aircraft carrier, too wide. The B-25 was just about perfect. But then the B-26 was also perfect too. But out of the two, the B-26 has a weird kind of landing, a landing, was it landing? I think it might have been taken off, actually. Yeah, takeoff. It had a weird takeoff characteristic. But at the same time as well, the B-25 now has to, instead of a 1,200-foot runway that it needs to take off, it has to do it in about half the distance, about 450 feet, which is going to be an issue. But they end up doing it. And so then the distance, the miles per gallon, the
miles per hour, the kilometers, distance,
the amount of distance it can travel with its fuel. I can't come up with the term right now. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. Was about 1,300 miles. And so that's about its range. The range of the aircraft is about 1,300 miles. And so then, guys. Yeah. So the USS Hornet was chosen to as a site, as the task force for this. And so it's now on its way to Japan. So it's traveling, everything's going great up until it's about 800 miles out from Japan. Oh shoot, sorry, draw Japan. Oh, yeah. So it's about
Japan.
Yeah, so it's about 800 miles out. About 16 bombers were chosen to pile onto this aircraft carrier. April 18th, that's when they end up sending these B-25s out. And so then down here, kind of like right out there. Oh, sorry. And then here's China. Cool. Yeah. And so about like right there would be the USS Hornet.
So, is that
it's a ship, yeah.
Oh, jeez. Spelling today.
Okay.
Right?
Oh, a hornet, like a bug.
Oh.
Yeah.
What was that? E?
Yeah, E.T.
Okay.
Sweet. So then this aircraft carrier, 16 of the bombers take off. They end up going into Japan, and so they end up bombing Tokyo, Yokohama, Kobe, and Nagoya. So they drop all their ordnance over here, and then they were to continue on to mainland China, where they can have areas, safe areas, where they can refuel and come back. Well, that's not the case. They end up, because they had to launch earlier, they had about 500 miles. So basically, once they got to Japan, they only had 500 miles to clear Japan into China, and then try to make its way all the way into free China, or basically Russia by that point as well. So then 14 of those bombers end up crash landing in China, with one in Russia. And then 8 men ended up being captured. 3 ended up being executed. The rest of them ended up getting away, essentially. So even though tactically this didn't really do too much, but it showed Hirohito that he's not invincible, that America can still attack the mainland Japan. It also showed Yamamoto that we mean business. So that's essentially, and then morale boosts. Everyone was like cheering, and there's like, yo, we attacked mainland Japan. So then that was another plus to them. So then this kind of like changes everyone's morale, boosts morale, essentially. It's a morale booster. It's alright. Erase. Yeah. This one. All right. What the hell? Okay, Philippines. Australia. Okay. So this one's Battle Coral Sea, I believe. Why don't I write this down? Wow, I didn't write this down. This is not. Guy. Oh, shoot, it is. Well, dang. Okay. Alright, so draw Australia. Yeah, so draw Australia like right in the middle, but don't go any higher than like this. Yeah, that's fine. And then, so draw. Now here, there's another.
Excuse me.
Oh, so draw like a very tiny island right there. And then that's Tolagai. So, what is it? Yeah, Tulagi. And then, I think like literally right. Oh my God, okay, I thought it was shaking a bunch. So like right underneath there, that would be Port Moresby. So actually, like, so there's a strip of island like right there.
Like a series
all
of
the
islands?
way. Yeah, just a series. Yeah.
Okay.
And then right there be Port Moresby. Oh shoot! Sorry. Now erase. Now it's coming back to memory a little bit. So then this is gonna be actually like one big thing. And then cut this in half. Oh, I'm sorry. Just draw a line through it. Yeah. So then, now, by this time, this is like French Indochina. So this is like, yeah, like Thailand and stuff over there. So then,
Oh, my bad.
Yep.
Well, how do you spell?
Oh, M-O-R-E. Never mind. M-O-R-S. B-E-Y. Okay. Pretty sure that's how it is.
Sure.
Sorry, no, it's wrong.
Oh.
It's M-O-R-E.
Okay.
And then S-B-Y.
Like Mosby with an R.
Yeah. And so, now, Japan has control over... Oh. It's kind of like right up here. Of... Oop. Tulagai. Yeah. So Japan has control over Tulagai, and it needs to capture Port Moresby in order to attack or invade mainland Australia. If they were to do that, they now take out the British, basically supplied force, like the Australian Air Force and the Australian Navy, places like that. Basically, the royal forces, essentially. Most of the Allied forces as well, and then by doing that, it'll basically be game over. So we need to stop that. So then, May 6th, the U.S. task forces, I believe it might have been the Yorktown and the Lexington. Don't quote me on that. And then plus the Australian cruiser force. They end up meeting them out there. So the Japanese, they stage at Tulagai. Where's red? Oh yeah, red. So the Japanese are right here. So then, oh geez, wish I would have just drawn these out. It's easier if there's a map. Man.
That is kind of hard to draw.
Yeah. Oh, this is bad. Basically, these are like the Solomon Islands. Cool. So then these are the Solomon Islands. And so the U.S. ends up having to head like northwest. Northwest. So the U.S. ends up having to head northwest, and then they receive news that actually the Imperial Japanese Navy is northwest. So then the Lexington and Yorktown, they end up setting up their aircraft and sending them up. And then the cruisers block the Jamard Pass, so then no one could get through. At the same time, the Zoic... Oh, shoot. Okay, it's coming back to memory. Okay, cool. I'm going to draw this. Nice. Okay, now it's coming back. Yes, actually it's right there. Cool. Okay. Yeah. Make sure. Yeah. Where's the red one?
Oh, I was going to say anything.
So now... So the Shoho ends up going into... It's in the northwest part. So the Shoho... Right here. Then the Zoikaku, and then the Shokaku. That's at the northeast portion. Yeah, there you So then, there's the Yorktown to Lexington. The Yorktown to Lexington, they're pushing out northwest. Oh, yeah. Maybe a blue. Cool. All right. Yeah. Then the black one. Nah, you're good. All right. So that's essentially how it is. So then the Japanese, they push out Tolagai, and then they got a couple of them right here too. So then, yeah, so they all come around there. Well, the Lexington and the Yorktown, they come around from the east, and so now they're going to be pushing up northwest towards the Shoho. Well, they send up a scout, a group of aircraft. They find the Shoho. So then they attack the Shoho. And they essentially sink that one. So now the Shoho is knocked out of commission. Let's see if I get this. Oh, shoot. Yeah. Get this right. Yep. All right. And then Australian cruisers. So then the Australian cruisers are right there. So they end up blocking this pass right here, the Jamard Pass. So they're just right there, just going to block it. So they're also firing on any enemy ships in that area, especially the Shoho. So now, the Shokaku and the Zoikaku also send up their own group. So they end up sighting the Lexington. So then the Lexington, so now they're all firing on each other. And then the Shoho did not have any defensive cover. So it ends up sinking with like 7 torpedo hits and 18 bombs. And so she ends up sinking, and she's also knocked out with only like 130 survivors out of everyone. The Japanese found the Neosho and the destroyer Sims, and they sink both of them. So they ended up just like complete, what up? And then they end up completely taking out those 2 destroyers. And so those 2 destroyers are right here. So knocked out. So then the U.S. at this time now pretty much they're right in the middle between this whole entire invasion force. And so then the U.S. sent about 75 aircraft up when the Japanese were then sighted on radar. Then the Japanese ended up sending up another like 69 aircraft. And so by the next day, the Lexington, it was hit. And so then the Lexington had catastrophic damage, and so all these fires kind of like rang out, and it was actually under control for a minute until these like random explosions happened. And so then the crew had to abandon ship, and then the Lexington, sadly and unfortunately, she is now at the bottom of the ocean. And so then the Zoikaku and the Shokaku, they end up receiving each about like three 100-pound bomb hits. So they're kind of damaged, but essentially they were left stable. And so then Yorktown was also damaged by the onslaught of aircraft that were sent in. And so Yorktown ends up turning around. And so it ends up trying to leave back towards Pearl Harbor. So then at the end of it, this was actually... Oh, you're good. You're good to So actually, this ends up doing 2 things. Oh, sorry. One more thing. So you might hear this again. I'm sorry. This is so long and so hard to... It's just a lot of information. Tactical. Cool. cool. All right, hold up again. Sweet. So it was a tactical victory for Japan because now they essentially knocked out one of our carriers for good and then heavily damaged another one of our carriers. And so then, when it comes to strategic, though, it was actually a strategic victory for us. Why, Simone?
You said what?
Why was it a strategic victory for us? Oh. Because now we halted the invasion of Australia. So... And so now, because we heavily damaged their invasion force, now the Japanese now have to turn back around because we essentially halted their advancement. So now things start to kind of change. Yeah, you can erase it if you want. Oh, yeah. So now things kind of start to change because now the Japanese are now halted. So now they're the peak of their territory is now just north of Australia, and then as far as Wake Island, and then as far north as French Indochina at this point, or Manchuria by this point. So now we get to the Battle of Midway. So Battle of Midway is going to be the turning point of everything. Are you ready, Moonbutt? Sorry. Oh my god.
Yes.
Oh my god. I was not even thinking.
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay.
You're right.
All right. So some kind of like when we go back, it's like early 1942. Joseph Rockford. He actually comes up with a system to crack the Japanese naval code, which is known as the JN-25B. And so then, now Americans knew about the Port Moresby attack. That's why they ended up actually staging in front, basically blocking Australia from Japan by that point. So then, when they started hearing more and more codes being sent out about AF. They didn't know exactly what it was by that point. So then, Rockford ends up thinking, okay, this could actually be Midway. Because of based on geolocation with geolocation and everything, that's where AF seems to be located, with what they're talking about. So then, Nimitz, he's like, let's just say that Midway's low on water. Let's see if that's it. So then they message back saying like, hey, Midway's low on water. Well, Japan then radios, they start sending signals out to their ships, and they're like, AF is low on water. So Nimitz is like, gotcha. So then he sends out the USS Hornet and the Enterprise to intercept this. Yorktown was then repaired within weeks of the Battle of the Solomon Islands. Battle of the Solomon Islands, and then it's now full steam ahead to intercept the USS Hornet and the Enterprise from Pearl Harbor. So now the Japanese plan to now attack the Aleutian Islands and Midway at the same time. The Aleutian Islands, though, that's going to be a decoy. Even though they do attack it, not much of a strategic importance, but it is fairly close, I guess, to the U.S. But the main objective was actually to capture Midway, since that's essentially midway to the U.S. coast of California, essentially. So now, you ready, Moonbutt? Stop, shoot, I'm gonna stop.
I'm ready.
Okay. So now, just draw this. Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay. Okay. So just draw Alaska, just like in the middle there.
In the middle?
Yeah.
Okay. Or dead center, or is this fine?
That's about fine. Yeah.
Okay.
and then just like a few little dots. Yeah, that's fine. So then below there is going to be Midway.
Do you just write it?
You can draw like a little dot.
Or like a little island?
Yeah, a little island's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, opposite. Draw Alaska smaller, but Midway just a little bit bigger. Since Midway's gonna be the main thing bigger. So then the Japanese, they have 4 carriers: the Akagi, the Kaga, the Suryu, and the Hiru. So those are going to be its main task force, and so the task force is going to be known as the Kido Butai. So then they're going to try to send aircraft to bomb Midway first, and then they're going to try to just invade it and take it over. So then, oh, here you go. No, perfect. So then over here, do 4 aircraft carriers.
And red?
Yeah. So then initially they... Oh, a little bit smaller.
Oh.
Yeah.
I got excited.
So then they send about 100 aircraft to bomb Midway. Midway actually picks up the radar. They know they're coming. And so Midway sends up a bunch of like F-2A Buffaloes. So super just bad aircraft. They are just completely knocked out. So then, So then the rest of the planes that were on Midway actually took off by that point as well when the whole dogfighting was taking place. So then when the Japanese actually come to bomb Midway, there's nothing there. It's just an empty land. So then the Japanese return, and so they return to Nagumo. Nagumo is the admiral of the entire task force, the Kido Butai. They return to Nagumo, and Nagumo's like, all right, let's rearm and let's send them back out there to bomb the rest of the airfield to completely just destroy it before the planes can come back. So then, instead of actually taking the ordnance below deck, he actually just completely drops the ordnance on the deck. So now you have planes and a bunch of bombs and torpedoes just strewn all over the deck. Guess what? Not only is it just unsafe, but also, guess what now can't take off? The scout aircraft. So then, actually draw 3, 3 aircraft carriers just right there. Yeah. So now... Oh, yeah. Heck yeah, there you go. There you go, period. So, heck yeah. So then, yeah, so he can't send up the scout aircraft. Well then, as he's trying to rearm, guess who is now finally right in front of Midway? The Enterprise, the Hornet, and the Yorktown. Yeah. So... Heck yeah, it was getting saucy, huh? So Nagumo has no idea that they're literally standing in between him and Midway. So then they send up a bunch of SBD dauntlesses. So basically just scout bomber, scout bombers essentially. So then they attack. Oh shoot, why did I do previous day? Oh yeah. So then they attack and... No, actually, sorry. So they send torpedo bombers. So it's going to be the TBD Devastators. So they send torpedo bombers. The issue, though, is that the torpedo bombers are using Mark 13 torpedoes. So the Mark 13 torpedo at that time was... it was very faulty. So then during testing, it would either dive too far or too deep. It would end up detonating on impact from the water, so we wouldn't even make it into the water before it just impacts or just detonates. And also, it just doesn't even detonate at all. So, I believe the very first force, about 15 TBD Devastators, end up taking off and essentially going after this task force, the Japanese task force. Not a single one makes it back before they're either shot out of the sky or the aircraft carriers shoot them down, and not a single torpedo detonates. So yeah, it's super sad too.
Crazy.
VT8, I believe, is what they're called. But essentially, none return. And then a pair of B-17s and SBD Dauntlesses end up taking off. So then they start coming at this carrier group. Oh, sorry. Yeah. All right. It's made a lot. Yeah.
Double.
Yeah.
Double decap.
Yeah. All right. Turn it all around now. Cool. So this all happened on June 4th. So on June 4th, they end up sending out the what do you call that? Oh, sorry. So June 4th, the carriers sail out here, essentially. And so then what was it? So they attack and TBDs first, and then finally they also have the SBD Dauntlesses and then B-17s coming in too. And so then hold this. So the Hiryu oh shoot, where is it? Yeah. So Nagumo is like, all right, I need to get this stuff on the road right now. So then he sends up a task or bombers from the Hiryu. And so, sorry, I'll just do the Hiryu, Kaga, and then Kagi, and then Kagi. Yeah. Kaga Suryu. Sorry. Hiryu Soryu. Yeah. Soryu Kaga. Yeah. So then, Soryu. Yeah, sorry. So the Hiryu, he sends a task force over and to attack, and then the Yorktown. Yorktown, Enterprise, Hornet. There you go. Cool. So then he damages the Yorktown. So then Yorktown. Oh my gosh, back again. Yeah. So then the Yorktown actually, if you look on other maps, the Yorktown actually comes down like here, and then tries to turn back away when he finally attacks. He attacks. So one group attacks about like right here, and another one attacks when it's further along there. So now the Yorktown is essentially dead in the water, like right here, more or less. And so then, as these planes start to return, that's when the Enterprise and the Hornet send up another task force of scout bombers and torpedo bombers. So then the scout bombers, they end up diving in on the So they end up diving in on the Hiryu, and then it's just a whole all-out onslaught, and then 4 of them actually end up hitting their mark and knocking out the Hiryu. So then at that point, the Hiryu ends up sinking, and then the destroyers Nawaki, Harashi, and the Higakage, Kaze, they all try to save their personnel, but then at the same time, they all end up just kind of going towards each one, and they just knock them out left and right. So then the Suryu ends up being damaged, and it starts to sink. Not 10 minutes later, the Akagi, it ends up sinking as well. Sorry, it's the Kaga. So Kaga ends up sinking. And so then the Akagi is damaged, and so it's beyond repair, and then slowly the next day, actually, they end up scuttling it because they can't keep it afloat. So they end up sinking the Akagi, the Akagi at that point. And so now, can you give me that? Yeah. So now, kind of looks like this now. So Yorktown is gone, and then you also got this, and then you got this is kind of off, but yeah. So all four of the Japanese carriers are now sunk, but then Spruance actually wants to send along the whole entire task force to then attack the rest of the Japanese force. So then he ends up going out west towards them, and he ends up knocking out the Mikuma, which is a heavy cruiser, and then he ends up heavily damaging the Arashio and then the Asashio. So now, whoop. Oh. Cool. So then, after he attacks all three of those cruisers, he then turns around, and then they start making their way back. Whew. And that's on June 6th. Yeah. So then he calls back his attack force after there's increased anti-aircraft fire from those cruisers that were damaged. So he doesn't want to lose any more men that are, unnecessarily. And so Task Force 16 ends up just breaking off and continuing eastward. So then because of that, so the Yorktown, it's still afloat, but it's just dead in the water. And so then the Hammond, it comes up right next to it, and it's trying to salvage everyone it can. So people are jumping ship and everything. Red marker. So then, whoop. Oh man! Oh no! So then, this force had no idea that behind them was actually submarines, Japanese submarines. They snuck behind them. Ooh. So then, there's a Japanese submarine, I-168 or something like that, I believe. It ends up firing torpedoes on the Yorktown while they're trying to fix it, and while they're trying to bring the sailors on board the destroyer, and also the Hammond. The Hammond, it sinks immediately. The Yorktown, she's still fighting. She's still afloat. And then a bunch of the other destroyers or the cruisers that are sitting around, they end up they spot the, They spot the submarine, so they just start firing on the submarine with everything they got. Well, the submarine ends up escaping. It's damaged a little bit, but ends up escaping. It just goes underwater and just, hightails it out of there. So, I believe in the wee hours of the morning the next day or later that night, the Yorktown actually ends up sinking. And so, unfortunately, so sad end to a very great career. But essentially, yeah, that's the Battle of Midway in a nutshell. There's probably a lot of things I missed out, a lot of things that I probably mixed up, just because I don't have a map, and then my notes are just so bad about this. But but I did what I could. Hopefully, I did not stray you in terms of the information and everything. I believe if there is anything that I did get wrong, mixed up, or just completely just off topic or whatever, just please let me know. I am sorry about that. But essentially, that is the Midway battle. So June 4th through June 6th, that was the whole battle. So this is considered the turning point because of a couple things. So one, that's a bit too out there. Yeah. So, one, now, Japanese Navy. basically decimated. So now by this point, it's essentially gone. They cannot. So most of their experienced naval pilots are now dead. Also, a large majority, all their 4 aircraft carriers that they use, those are now, they cannot use those anymore. And so they, from this point on till the end of the war, they never replace those aircraft carriers. So basically, the Japanese Navy is essentially on a crutch from here on out. The U.S. still holds Midway. So then from there, they can now launch aircraft from there to those neighboring islands. So it is a strategic victory and also a tactical victory because it took out those aircraft carriers. And victory. Cool. Then essentially by this point, America is now on the offensive. So by this point, they pushed Japan back towards the neighboring islands. So west of Australia and north of Port Moresby. So now America is going to go on the offensive, especially with the future battles of like the Coral Sea, the island hopping campaign, which I will explain further in the next phase of this. But essentially, that's what it is. Then later on, I believe, like around the same period, actually, FDR and Winston Churchill, the Prime Minister and President, they both meet and they talk about developing the atomic bomb. So that will come into play. They don't include the USSR because I don't know. Wah, wah, wah. So then they don't bring in the USSR just due to mistrust, ideological differences in how they see the development of this bomb and how they see the spread of this bomb, and they don't want this to spread to everyone else because it's a fear of spreading power. So that's going to be the next chapter as well. Actually, the third chapter is going to be more so the atomic bomb and everything. But otherwise, that's it. That's just this second section of World War II. Hopefully next week I'll be able to talk a bit more about World War II and actually be a little bit better at explaining everything. But I do apologize on that. But otherwise, that's it. Hopefully, if you don't have any questions, I'm going to get going, and then but yeah, there's my sister. So yeah, Simone, she says hi. So
Thanks for having me.
yeah, peace out.
This was a lot of info.
It is. Yeah.
Mm.
Where?